All right, get started.
Okay, so hey everybody, welcome to the refresher on scheduling and intergy. Again, please use your chat if you have any questions, and then if I don't cover it, we'll come back and make sure everybody's questions are answered. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. You should be able to see my intergy base at the moment. Y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So, the first thing that I was going to go over was just basic creation of the templates, which I believe that y'all are in the process of doing for not only your APRNs, but also for your nurses, whoever is going to be doing nurse visits that day versus RH things. So, um, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating these schedules based on a perfect world. And I always hear from all the regional leaderships is, yeah, but I have to float this person, and I've had this one on FMLA. So do it for a perfect world where no one calls in, no one's on vacation, and no one's on leave. Let's pretend that first. So go up to set up, and then you're going to go to scheduling. So like I said, you're going to build the rotations based on everything being perfect in your world. And then I'm going to show you a little later how you make the day-to-day runnings go, floating people in, this one taking over this schedule, and all of that. Okay. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to setup, and then you're going to go into scheduling. And there's several things in here that I do want to go over with you. Now, you're not going to change any of the reasons. This is where BHI and the programs have developed the different types of classes. And if you can think of the classes being the overarching umbrella for that type of program, and then the reason codes here being all of those different raindrops that's under the umbrella, the different types of visits. Like you've got your annual, you've got your procedure, all of those different types. So class is the overarching umbrella, and then the code is everything that's under that umbrella. Resource groups, back when we first started going through intergy, each health unit developed their resource group. And what I'm hearing now is some people have left. The resource groups need to be updated so that when they do pull up that resource group, they can have the accurate people that's in there. So in order to update your resource group, you'll go here, and then you'll pull up whatever resource group you want to update. So let me give you an example. The one that I maintain is APRNs statewide, and that gives us a view of every APRN in the state at one glance. So I've purposefully left out one of our APRNs so that I can show you how to add and manipulate this resource group. What you'll do is you'll find your resource group here. You'll edit. I've already removed one of our APRNs that left, but I need to add Nadine. And this is where it gets difficult because you really need to know her number, and I don't know her number. So Nadine Blake. Let's go. Let me just look up her number real quick. Just give me 1 second. It is NPMB. Okay. NP. There's Nadine. All right. So you're going to find the number for your provider, and then you're going to highlight it, and you're going to select it over into this list of resources. Now I have them all according to which region that they are in. For instance, this is region 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to put Nadine, who's at the bottom by Morgan, because they're both in the same region. So you'll highlight that person and just move her up to where you want her to be. And now Nadine is right beside Morgan, so because they're both in region 5. Once you get your list in order, however you want it to view, then you're going to hit save. So now let me show you what this is, the mechanism for creating your resource group and also editing and managing it. Let me show you what it looks like on this side. So now I have my resource group, APRN statewide. If you hit show location, it shows if they're in person, which is just a number. It corresponds with the clinic that they're in person that day, or T for telemedicine. If they're telemedicine, that means that they are doing telemedicine for the state for that day. And then you'll click over. There's several different pages. This tells you, okay, she's doing telemedicine. This one's doing an in-person visit, telemedicine, and on. It'll also tell you if somebody's on leave, if you put that in. And so we'll go over that as well. So that is the resource group, and that's what makes the scheduling for the clerks a lot easier, is if they can have, for instance, a resource group with all of their nurses that are seeing patients in that day, or all of the nurse practitioners statewide, so they can see which ones are doing telemedicine and which ones are not. Okay, then templates should be already built for all of your locations and all of your clinics. Move this over here so you can see. So I've got like assisting provider at all of your locations, along with if they are, go to RHN for RH nurse. If they're doing like a half day in the morning for RH and then regular nurse visits in the afternoon, and by each clinic. It's clinic specific. So you have to look for your clinic and then determine if the nurse is doing regular nurse visits or RH nurse visits and when. If something in here needs to be made, please let me know and I can make it for you. But I think we should have everything made that needs to be. When you find your, like say, reproductive health, they're going to do reproductive health in the afternoon at LaSalle and at nurse visits in the morning. You're going to want to take note of this RHN30 code, because that is what the code is going to be when you plug in their template. You're telling the computer that Tammy Bennett is going to do RHN30 every Monday. Then it tells the computer that to open nurse visit slots in the morning and reproductive health nurse in the afternoon at LaSalle location. So keep track of these codes. That will help when you're building your rotations out. So the next thing is the rotation. I'm going to pull up mine. This is a sample for me. And again, let's go through the weeks. I really wish that intergy would call it week A, B, C, D, E, F, G instead of week 1, 2, 3, 4, because the week in intergy is not going to match up with the week on the calendar. Back in the last EHR, you know, we have 5th weeks. Laura built out each one of those 5th weeks. In this system, it's a little different. You can, it's going to be a, whatever you build here, it's going to rotate every week. So say I have only one schedule I'm doing, then that week 1 is going to be every week. It's going to go through week 1. It's going to go through week 1 again and again. For those who, and you have to determine what your schedule is going to be. So let's go to someone else here, just a second. TV docs. Okay, perfect. Here is a nurse that has a rotating schedule based on 2 weeks. So every other week, she is doing something different. The first, or week A, she's going to be assisting the provider. Week B, she's going to be doing reproductive health nurse. Week C is going to be assisting the provider. It just repeats every week. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So let me stop there because this is one of the main things that everybody needs to get before we move on. So does anybody have any questions so far?
Hey, Tammy, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So on the previous thing that you showed the codes for the rotations,
Mm-hmm.
is that something that folks like regional nurse managers or the RAMs need to create, or does that need to be created by like Laura or you or I?
It is something that we create. They don't create this. These should already be created. But if they notice an error, for instance, let's say it's a nurse practitioner schedule and the nurse practitioner has some travel time that's not accounted for, they need to let us know so that we can fix that. But these,
So for example, yeah, okay, I see.
they
So
don't, they only need to look up the rotations that already have been built in the system. And if there's another one that needs to be built, they need to let us know.
okay, that's fine because I have a short list.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to find like a nurse practitioner one here somewhere. Okay, so for instance, this one's APRN Medical and Evangeline. Well, if Amanda or Stephanie have a lot of travel time built in here, we've not allotted for that, and we would need to see if they want to take these top 2 appointments off or more, or if they want them to be waiting on them when they get there to the clinic. So that's up to each regional leadership as to, when you want your patients to start, knowing when the nurse practitioner is supposed to get to the clinic.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any other questions? That was a good question.
Tammy, what would you recommend as the best method to indicate that travel time? Do you want us to mark it, block it? What's the best way if that person is not going to be there till 9 o'clock?
So that's a perfect example of when we would need you to email. See, I don't really know how long it takes to get to, say, Grant. I have no idea unless I MapQuest it or whatever. So what we're asking is the same time that the nurse practitioner would leave her house to go to her domicile is the same time she's going to leave to go to Grant. And so how long is it going to take her to get there? And then when does she want her first patient to be there? Because we also know it takes, some time to get through registration. It takes time to get through the nurse. And so, for instance, whenever I used to go out to Manny, which was an hour-and-a-half drive one way, I would want my patients to actually start at like 8:45. That way, by the time I got there at, 9:15 or so, they were already ready to be seen. So there wasn't any delay. So that's what I need you to work out with your nurse practitioners is when do you want that first patient? And when you get that, email me, or I don't know, Deborah, if you want to alter these schedules. If you do, then just email both of us and we can go in and I hit edit, and then I can clear these slots that don't need the availability to have a patient booked in those.
Okay, so we'll
So
send
you
y'all.
won't have to do this every single time she goes out, is my point.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay.
I just clicked it off, so sorry. Okay, so going back, let's go back to rotations. So for instance, this is a nurse who has, if you can call this week A, B, C, D, it goes back to A, even though there may be 5 weeks in the calendar, you're not going to have 5 weeks built out. So whatever you build in here is going to rotate over and over. It's important to make sure that you're not trying to override the system and put 5th weeks doing something specific, because then it's hard to pull reports, for one. And number 2 is if you miss, like say, this assisting provider is not in there, then you're going to miss somebody who's supposed to be doing something and they're not listed. So it's best just to let the system do these rotating weeks, and the staff will get accustomed to, oh, this is week A, this is week B, and this is what I do. Any questions on that?
Tammy, we
Okay.
have a question in the chat. How will we do it for an APRN that goes to a site 2 days per month?
Okay, so if they go to a site 2 days per month, I would have to look at it. If it's one that can be built into a 2-week schedule, for instance, like say she goes to Bogalusa on every other Tuesday, then you would have to build a 2-week schedule, because it's the same. The week 1 and 2 is going to be the same as 3 and 4. 1 and 3 is the same. 2 and 4 is the same. But if it's something different, like with Amanda, she has this outlier here on week 4, so that means you have to build 4 weeks into her template. And I'd be happy to work with you, Sheila, specifically just on a one-off, to look at the schedule you've built for Andrea, and just make sure that it's built easier. Worst case scenario, you do all 4 weeks, but you may not have to build all of that in there. It just takes time.
And Tammy, I think, and only because the word month was used, and I have tried just from my own brain to wrap my mind around this for so long that it's a 4 weeks. I don't use month. I use the words 4-week rotation, because when you say month, you could get into that mindset of, well, it's the 30 days, which is that half extra week. So really, it could be every other Tuesday, just exactly how you said is how we need to sort of look at it, because
Right.
otherwise it will get off and your schedules will never be right. We've had regions go through that.
You're so right, because it's not the 1st and 3rd Tuesday anymore. It's every other Tuesday. So yes, thank you for bringing that. Okay. So let's see. Another question is, so the weeks only change when the duties change, correct? So if you have a nurse practitioner that goes, and we do have some of these, who goes to a certain site every Monday, every Tuesday, and then another site every Wednesday, and it's the same week over and over, you only have to build 1 week into this platform, because that 1 week is going to just continue on and on and on. Okay, so let's go back to the rotation. That's the rotation. Let's say that this is already built for someone. I'm going to pull myself back up here. Here's myself so I don't mess it up with anybody. Let's say I'm going to do an in-person every Monday instead of telemedicine. You would go to edit. You can double click it. I'm just going to pick anything here. Let's say I'm going to go work at St. James in person every Monday. But I'm going to remain telemedicine every other day. Then you just hit save. So you may not have to build it all again. You can just edit your schedule and make it what it is. But let's say that I'm only going to do in-person at St. Mary on week 1 and week 3. That's when we have to completely rebuild the schedule, because you can't add weeks, additional lines into this. So you would do a brand new one for me. For a 2-week schedule, and see how now you've got 2 weeks that you can go ahead and start playing with. And just to let you know, I always do my closed days first so that I don't get off on my eye track. So we're closed on Sunday and Saturday, and that's when I start filling in the rest. So as an example, let's just say I'm going to go to St. James on the 1st and the 3rd. I'm going to continue to do telemedicine every other day. Then I would continue to fill in telemedicine on all these, and this 2-week schedule will continue to rotate. So do you see how this week 1 would actually also be week 3? Y'all with me? Y'all can unmute or chat in. Just make sure I'm not losing anybody. So do I need to go over that again, Deborah?
Yeah, maybe so. But Precious asked a question about what the codes meant, and I'm thinking maybe is there a way maybe to print like for each region, or if there's some kind of way we can have like a code sheet for each region and what they mean so folks remember. I mean, I think sometimes you can figure it out, but maybe because it's new to folks.
You're right. I tried to make it easy, but when we started all this reproductive health nurse half, that's where it got a little more difficult. Okay, so this is the test. Do you see how, and yes, NSE means nurse. And so we'll go over what types of visits are in those, each one of those in just a second.
Amy, we have another question. What does hybrid schedule mean?
Oh, okay. So when I use the term hybrid, that means I have not only telemedicine, but I also have in-person visits on the same template. So you're going to have both types of things that the nurse practitioner is going to be doing, not only in person, but telemedicine as well. And so, yes, the nurse visit Thibodeau, I tried to make it NV for nurse visits, and then some type of initials for the different type of clinic to make it easier to find when you're going through all that. I don't know if that's something that can be printed out. I'm sure we can do something. We can ask VHI to see if they can print out the list of all of the different types of
yeah, I think once it's like printed out and you look at, what it is, it does become intuitive. You figure out, it's the health unit name is always in there.
This is what I want to show you how the difference is. Sample for a 4-week schedule. So again, you're going to be closed every Saturday and Sunday. Getting there, y'all. Okay. Now, when you're doing a 4-week schedule, I'm going to show you what the difference is. Remember how I said, okay, every other week I'm going to go to, what is this, St. John, St. Mary? And then every other week I would do telemedicine at Caddo. And then just pretend all of these are telemedicine at Caddo. So do you see how if this one and this one just rotate over and over, it's the same thing as building a 4-week schedule. Am I making sense? Week 1 and 2 is the same as week 2 and 3. So you don't have to build the 3 and 4 if it's the same as 1 and 2. Because 1 and 2 is just going to repeat over and over.
That makes sense. Another thing, just for my own understanding that may help y'all. Y'all see how Tammy, she's assigning she's making a rotation, but she's assigning templates. You can't see it, but the template is a whole day. Because I know y'all here saying, okay, I'm building, and y'all see the code. But if you look up RHMST2, it's going to be an entire day of appointments. So that's I just want to make sure they're connecting those dots, because they see the codes, but it's like, okay, well, what are we actually building?
That's a great, yeah, yes. The code is here. You have to look at what you want that person to be doing here in the template part. And then you take note of what that template is called. And it could be like, we have some, now medicals are all the same day, but nursing has some of these half and halves, where that nurse, if you assign RHN.52, what that's going to do is that nurse would do nurse visits in the morning and just reproductive health nurse in the afternoon. So it's all depending on how this template is built. And then you assign that template, which will then tell the computer what that nurse is going to be doing that day. One other thing we were talking about a second ago is, let's go back up to reasons. When you're talking about nurse visits, that's the umbrella category. So to see if you assign somebody to do nurse visits that day or that morning, what exactly type of visits are they going to be doing? So you can go over to the codes and type in NSE for nurse and, class. And this is the type of visits that they would be able to book in for that nurse, I call it the generic nurse template. It's just nurse visits. So you can do CSHS, genetics, immigration, immunization. The only reproductive health, there's 2 types of reproductive health visits that you can do as a regular nurse, and that's the reproductive health emergent visit, meaning that they're symptomatic or a contact to syphilis, something that means they can't wait for a reproductive health nurse to do it. And then also the lab only is under a regular nurse visit. And then you have all of your TB type of visits. For reproductive health nurse, that's where you have like your problems, your contraceptive revisits, your treatment visits. All of those are under reproductive health nurse. So is that making more sense when you're looking at the templates? A nurse visit means they can do everything, genetics, CSHS, immunizations, TB, reproductive health emergent visit, or reproductive health lab. And then down here, it's a reproductive health problem, treatment, contraceptive revisit, all of those.
That sounds like a great thing to add to my proposed cheat sheet of the codes, Tammy, just so folks are clear on it as well.
Yeah.
Especially as we move to like looking at onboarding and training, just so it's like laid out. So when they're looking at this side, if they're new or, that's new, new, they haven't figured it out, basically, I guess, it's written somewhere.
Yeah, good suggestion. Okay, so we went through these templates. That's what we recreate for you. But then once they're created, you assign those templates to the rotation that you want them to go on, whether it be in person or telemedicine and where the in-person is going to be. Now let's talk about assigning. This is a huge tab that can easily get messed up. If you leave it on practice, you see how it says LHCQ? Our EHR is through the Louisiana Healthcare Quality Forum. And so that means practice-wide. So if I assign myself, Lord, I'm not going to do this, I promise I'll cancel it. But if I assign telemedicine Tammy Bennett to take effect right now, then what that's going to do is every single template in the state is going to be under telemedicine Tammy Bennett. So the only time we go to practice stuff is if we're marking off dates for holidays, where it's a system-wide holiday, it's a system-wide training, whatever is system-wide, we're going to leave it on this practice. Otherwise, immediately click off of practice and go to provider. So when you're talking about the provider, you're going to bring up your specific provider, which it keeps going underneath my, y'all, where'd it go? Okay. So click on provider, and then you're going to find that provider. And the way I like to toggle by name because I cannot remember numbers. So here is mine. Right now, I have this old telemedicine template assigned. But let's say that I'm going to start the new hybrid schedule December 1st, or around December 1st. We're going to leave what I'm doing in now, but then on a certain date, we're going to override it. So, telemedicine, I don't know if I saved that hybrid. Oh, I did under Tammy Test, I think, yeah. And start date, you can bring down the date, and we're always going to start on a Sunday. If you try to start this on a Monday, remember how I had to put closed on every Sunday and Saturday? You're always going to want to choose the Sunday date. So let's go to December, and if I want it to start the first week of December, I'm going to put the start date for this rotation on the 29th. Okay, and then hit save. So now it said, hang on. Oh, no. It's always going to push it down. This is the one we're on until 11/29, and then on 11/29, it's going to change to this new hybrid schedule that I just built. If you delete this now, then I'm not going to have any templates in the computer from now until the 29th. So you don't want to delete what's in there right now. You just want to add the new one for the start date of when you want the new one to take over. Any questions with that?
Tammy, and I know there was a question about what hybrid meant, but I missed if you explained that.
Yeah, hybrid is where you have not only the telemedicine days, but also the in-person visit days for each nurse practitioner. So it's not all telemedicine, it's not all in person, it's a hybrid between the both.
Tammy, if I have a new rotation, is there any circumstance where I should delete the old one, or do I just leave it listed with the new date?
Okay, so good question. Let's say that I am FMLA, I am off until December 1st. Okay, so in that case, it's okay to go ahead and remove this thing right here, because you don't want any open slots on a person that's not here. So you could take this off if they're out of the office for an extended period of time. You can go ahead and just delete that rotation, and then put the when you want their templates to be back open, put that start date, whatever that Sunday start date is.
Tammy, if I have an APRN who does not see patients on a regular basis, just every now and then, do I need to build them a schedule, or is there something else that I can do?
Another good question. So that there is a nurse practitioner who doesn't see patients very often. So what that would do is you can not build her a template at all. But if perhaps she is going to see, patients just for 1 week or 1 day here and there, don't build her an assignment. Go ahead and just go to specific dates, pull up that nurse practitioner by name. Make sure that she's under, you make sure you're under provider, make sure you're under the right nurse practitioner, and whatever day she's going to be in clinic, you double click it, and now you have to find the code. So say she's going to work a in-person in Assumption Parish. So that will just drop in a one-off template for somebody that doesn't have a routine schedule. I'm going to clear that out so it doesn't look like she has to travel, but that's the way that you would do that scenario.
Thanks. If I have, if for some reason my APRN needs to call off during that week, right? And so I need to switch her in-person day. Like if she's normally in person every Wednesday, but for whatever reason that week she's going to be in person on Tuesday, what's the best way to do that?
Okay, so let's say my in-person is right here. What I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to say that I'm off, okay, for today. Leave A or leave B, whatever. And then I'm going to move that in-person and I'm going to drop in the in-person template on the correct day. So I moved that just on a one-off. I moved my in-person from St. John or St. James from this day to this day because I'm sick or I'm out this day. So this overrides anything that's unscheduled. Now, when you do that, you do need to go to November 9th. So now go to the 9th and you will see if you look in the location, see how it's 22 now instead of telemedicine. And then if I flip to the 2nd, it should show me as being off, not there at all. You see, this is the 9th and it shows in person versus the 10th, which is a telemedicine day. Did that answer your question? That's how you would move the templates around without having to go into the rotation assignment and change it. This is more permanent. You don't want to change it here if it's a one-off. You're just going to go to a specific date for a specific provider and drop it into that calendar for a one-off thing.
Thanks for that. So again, when you're working in the rotation assignment, that is a perfect world. Everybody's in. This is the schedule that we follow week by week. And then when you have special circumstances, you can come in and drop in this schedule under specific dates, right?
Right. And it's not just for nurse practitioners, it's also for nurses. Like, say Deborah calls in and now this person is going to have to go and assist this provider. You would go in under Deborah's and mark her out of the office. You can also do OOO for out of the office. Doesn't really matter why they're out of the office. We just need to know that they are not available. And then you'll go to the correct person that's going to be covering for her, and you'll drop in whatever that person was supposed to be doing to cook so that your clinics are covered. I didn't mean to cut you off. That was good.
No,
All right.
this,
So creation of templates. Okay. So there's been a question, and again, this is up to operations, but as far as the scheduling piece, it's recommended that as soon as you authorize and approve leave or time off, that you come into the specific dates under the specific person and double click it and do mark out of the office. That way it keeps this template clear. So let me go back over here to I don't think I have a template set up for myself, but it'll keep it where no patients are going to be booked on that day.
Tammy, I have a question, and this is me learning. What if I already have patients scheduled on that day? Does marking that out of the office automatically cancel them? Like if I want my clerks to go in and call and reschedule, maybe they didn't get in touch with them the first time around, and so there's still a couple patients on the schedule. Do those patients go away? Are they canceled?
Unfortunately, no. So let's go look at an example here. One of the nurse practitioners. Okay, this perfect. Okay, this nurse practitioner is going to be out of the office on the 10th, but you see all of these patients that are still scheduled. That's exactly what it'll look like when you hit the out of office, but there's patients scheduled on there. And so what will need to happen is you'll click on the patient, right click, and either you can move it to another nurse that's covering for her, or you'll have to reschedule that appointment if it's a nurse practitioner and nobody else is covering. You'll have to reschedule it to another day.
If it's a telemedicine appointment, can you move it across regions? I know the answer, but I'm asking for other people.
Yes, absolutely. That is the beauty of having this APRN statewide. When you hit show location, let's go to a different day. All right. So Paige, let's say she has a sick youngin here, and these are all telemedicine patients here. So you can look across all of the nurse practitioners and see if they have a T in front of their name. You can simply right click it, reschedule. Of course, I don't want to do this. Right click, reschedule, and then you just simply move to the same time slot under another nurse practitioner that they have available and make it there. That way it's the same code for the patient. It doesn't have anything under notes that says what number or Zoom link to call, but all of that just transfers to the other nurse practitioner so that they can just pick up where they left off. And the nurse practitioners they all have each other's Zoom information right now. So if I'm covering for Tammy Trainer, I know her Zoom information. I'll just jump on that Zoom. It's much easier for me to jump on that than it is for the patient to get a new link and then, oh, which link do I use and all that. So.
Is there a way to easily indicate that you would have to use a different Zoom for that patient, or do you have to just go into their chart and see?
You have to go into their chart, and it really should be for every telemedicine patient. It should be right here in the notes when you're scheduling them, what the Zoom link is. And this, while I've got you all as a captive audience, we are anticipating phone calls not being compliant with telemedicine much longer. So please encourage all of your clerks to really push the Zoom platform. It's very easy. If they need a run through, we can assign somebody to run that through maybe the day before. But there needs to be something in this notes. Patient refused Zoom, only has phone available, and call them at this number. There needs to be something written in this notes section. say, because the nurse practitioner is pulling these up and saying, okay, how do they want me to contact them for this telehealth visit? I know that was just kind of on the slide, but okay. So does everybody understand? Immediately click off of practice and go to provider. If you put it on practice and you do any changes, that's statewide. And I've had TB docs calling me saying, where's my patients? And we have to figure out then which person what changed it for the whole state. Any other questions specifically that I can answer? So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm a little unclear, and it may just be me not having worked in a system. So there are some of the smaller parish health units where, the APRN only goes once a month or twice a month. I didn't really understand what was best practice for that. Like, do you have to put something in every day, or can I just say, like, if she goes the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday, well, it doesn't really work like that because it's not based on a month, y'all. I'm sorry.
Right.
But if she's going on the same 2 days a month, I didn't really understand from the explanation what's the best way to set that up, because that's a situation for a lot of people who have like smaller PHU.
Right. And when you think about that, I think about Tammy and Dia. Actually, let me pull up Dia's real quick, because she only goes to Sabine once a month, right here. So it's on week 3, or if you want to call it week C, on Friday of week C. So what you have to do is build a 4-week schedule, and on that third or week C, you put the Sabine. And so it's actually going to be, it's not every third Friday. It is going to be on a rotating basis. So let's say if you have a 5th week here, week 1 is going to go in that 5th week, and the first week of December would actually be your week 2, not week 1. So that's why it's not going to be that, okay, every third Friday. It's important when the patients call in. We used to say, okay, the nurse practitioner is here every first and third Wednesday. It's going to be important for you when you're scheduling the patients to say, call me and I'll let you know when the next available is, because first of all, we're going to have telemedicine for all nurse practitioners available, so that these who are in the outlying health units, they may not even need to wait till that once a month unless they absolutely need an in-person appointment. They could get seen the next day. So with another nurse practitioner, or even with your next nurse practitioners when they have their telemedicine days. But if they need a hands-on exam, then this week C on Friday, and then you'll look into your scheduler here to see when that week C Friday is falling on what date. Did that answer your question?
Yes, that was clear. Thank you.
Okay. I have one other thing that I thought of that I needed to show you, and that is, let's say a nurse practitioner needs to take off half a day. She doesn't need to be off all day, so you don't have to put the out of office. So when you go in under the specific dates, sorry, let me pull this one back. I'm going to learn my code in a minute. 57. All right, I need to remember that. So when you put out of office, that puts them out of office all day. But let's say they only need a couple hours, or they're in a mandatory training for a couple hours. So in order to put that time off, you go to the calendar, you go to the specific day that the mandatory training or their appointment is on, and then you're going to click in that time slot, go to name, let's see, just hit, okay, yeah. Then you can go to non-patient. You can select anybody's name just to get to this make appointment screen. And then you click non-patient, out of office, and length of time, however long. Okay, fine, great. And then save. And it's going to say it's reserved for a patient reason. Continue, yes, because we want all these appointments to be for patients. She's only going to be out of the office for a couple hours. So hit yes, and you'll see how that marked her out of the office just from 2:30 on. If you need to cancel it, you right click and you cancel that appointment. So that's how you would do, just a portion of the day. But if it's all day, you go through the scheduler specific dates. If it's all day.
Tammy, so if it's a holiday, you're going to do the all day.
If it's a holiday, then it's a holiday for everyone. And so Laura, or I think, yeah, Laura goes through a year in advance, and she goes ahead and puts under assignments for the whole practice. I'm sorry, under specific dates for the whole practice, like these holidays. See how she's got these already marked
Okay,
as holidays.
so we typically get Friday after Thanksgiving. Will she automatically go in there, or should we do that?
Well, as soon as we get the declaration from the governor, then BHI team will go in and mark this as a holiday as well. But we can't mark it until it's been declared.
Official, right? Okay.
Good question. And you might want to just kind of caution your staff not to schedule anybody purposefully on that day. Hopefully that declaration will be coming soon.
Tammy, who all has rights to the like creating the rotations and stuff like that, or going in and scheduling people off? Does do like all supervisors have the ability to do that?
I'm going to have to let BHI or operations take that. I was
Yeah.
thinking it was just the regional leadership team.
That's correct. So the only people who have access currently to do that is RMD, ARA, Regional Nurse Manager, and RAM.
Okay, thank you.
And then the only people that can do the templates are, I believe, operations, Precious, Deborah, myself, maybe I'm not sure about other program leads, and of course BHI.
Any more questions? We're pushing up against the 12:30 hour, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Any more questions?